And welcome back to the Think Tank Podcast. I am your host, Randy Hayes. So glad that you were able to join us again. Have another special guest for you. This young lady is doing a lot of research and journalism on the diaspora. She's got a lot going on with herself, and I'd like to say she's pretty entertaining as well. I'm excited for you all to meet her. Her name is Justice. Justice, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's really nice to meet you and your audience. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm great. I've been grinding, man. I had an interview last night for the podcast, and I'm back at it, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I spend my days working out and day and night.
For sure. For sure. Well, do us a favor. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is, where you grew up, um, all that jazz. Yeah.
Okay, so I own a blog, a research. I work with a consulting company, The African Dream. He's giving me some knowledge towards my journalism and apprenticeship so I can get some skills and work with some more leaders and people who have actual business connections. I grew up all over the place, across the DMV. I lived in Ghana for some time. All of this stuff is important to me because it shaped who I am today. All of these different backgrounds allowed me to develop a natural sense of intercultural communication. So it's really easy for me to blend from environments. I use those to interview people, to speak with people, and try and put myself in their shoes and understand what they're telling me. Assuming positive intent helps a lot. We're trying to make sure that most people aren't trying to fight with you or come off harsh. Carrying all those skills and trying to share that empathy to spread unity amongst the diaspora is what I'm doing.
That's awesome. Well, can you do us a favor? Can you tell us a little bit about, what it is that drives you in, your pursuit with American Dream and the magazine and, the Substack?
What drives me is not seeing anyone or anything like myself doing what I'm doing. There's a few women, like Ghanaian women, who are reporters, who are podcast hosts, and I love what they're doing. There's a few Black American women who podcast hosts, and I love what they're doing. But there's no one I can relate to of the diaspora. There's no one who grew up in America and spent time back home and is trying to use that identity to build space for us. I haven't. It's really hard for me to relate, and that's what drives me. Like growing up, even people in the Latinas, they've had American, what's that, in Ferreira, and I was like, Akaswachi, yeah, and yeah, I was in her TED talk, and how it was hard for her, exactly with Ugly Betty, when she came out. For a while, she wasn't getting roles because she was the only one doing what she was doing and opening a space for women who looked like her and were her. So I'm a little bit camera shy sometimes. I don't like being in front of the scene, but if opening the door means putting myself in front, then that's what needs to be done.
Okay. Well, you kind of just threw the word diaspora out there, and honestly, that was the reason why originally you were putting me on with another guest. I was like, I need you on the pod because that's something that I'm pretty passionate about, and you could tell. So I have this process when we're doing interviews where I do like screening, and I did it was like 3 hours. It was like a 3 hour screening. So we definitely could go on all day, talking about, some of the issues with the diaspora. I, I found it very interesting that there's really like sub communities in the diaspora. So can you tell us like, what is your definition of the diaspora? What does that encompass?
My definition of a diaspora is a group of individuals who depends on which culture, because there's actually a bunch of different ones of the diaspora. There's the African diaspora, there's the Caribbean diaspora, there's the Indian diaspora, but specifically when we get into the African diaspora, there's so many subcategories because we were spread across the world. So you have people who are descendants from slaves, you have people who are first generation descendants from Africa. You have people who come from the Caribbean. Their family migrated to America after, and then we all belong to the same place at the end of the day. It's a little controversial, I know, but we're all human. We originate from one place. It's just where we ended up now that defines who we are and how we interact with each other. But in these subcategories, sometimes we conflict with each other unnecessary. Sometimes we're separated from the focus that we're a family, that we're community, that we are brothers and sisters, we're cousins, we're aunts, we're uncles, we're everything. We are community, we are each other. I am you, you are me. We came from the same black woman. There's
Yep.
no reason we should be fighting, but there are reasons we fight, and a lot of people online call it the diaspora war, which is a lot.
Yeah, no, and we're gonna touch on that like in a little bit, but I'm so glad you brought that up as far as like our identity. I started this podcast a couple years ago, and in the first couple episodes, I was just talking about myself, like who I am, and I made a comment that might have been like a little controversial because I'm a man of God, but I identify myself, probably even more so as a black man. It's so much, to do with how I carry myself, how I am treated, the experience that I have, and I think that, one of our challenges we'll probably get into a little bit later in the show is how can we do a better job of not allowing our differences to separate us. But what are some of the topics that you cover?
Did I cover?
Yeah, on the Substack.
Okay, so on my Substack, I've covered a few topics dealing with people who are in communities that aren't represented
So down.
because there's with the divides and everyone crabs in the bucket fighting to be seen, we are forgetting that there's people just like us in other places. We're so busy fighting amongst ourselves that we aren't looking at other people who are calling out for us, who want to work with us, who want to connect with us. There are people in Nigeria, there are people in Ghana, there are people in Sierra Leone who want to work with Black Americans. They want to unify. They want to do the same things we are. In fact, some of us, you're an inspiration to some people. You inspire a couple people on my page today. They want to do what you're doing.
Okay, that's dope.
There isn't many differences outside of the ones placed on us by society. We want the same things.
Yeah. Talking about differences, one of the things that we talked about offline, I got into my soapbox talking about Willie Lynch and, how there's so many differences, I went to North Stafford High School, people look at you differently, if they find out you're from Stafford than Woodbridge, people look at you differently. They find out you're from Virginia instead of Maryland, or that you claim Northern Virginia but you're on the outskirts. Heck, people even look at you differently if you went to North Stafford High School as opposed to Brook Point. So it's like we have so many differences, and we let those identifiers cause like situations that don't really need to be a situation. When there was like all of these like public executions that were going on, really around the time of like COVID. I feel like they were highlighted more because we were trapped in the house, and it was really like dominating our timelines. I remember like going up to Wawa, and I ran into this random black dude, and we kind of gave each other a look, and there was so much that was said, even though we were just like, what's up? It was like we all we got. You know what I mean? Like we can't afford to make ourselves enemies in this world too, with all of the pressures and oppression that's against us. So I'm excited that you'll have an opportunity to really highlight some of those things. And there's a lot of miseducation, misinformation, going on with what's not only going on in Africa, but also Black America as a whole. Can you talk about some of those things?
Yeah, so for example, there was a really big argument online that I saw that I didn't participate in because it was a little bit out there. People were taking shots. But there was a woman who was describing how it was tough being married to a Nigerian man because allegedly in Africa, what is portrayed of Black Americans is they like to smoke, they like to party, they like to rob, they play with guns.
Yeah.
So fear is installed a bit and intimidation is installed across these. And then when we're here, it's not even just in movies, but donate or Africa needs water or the people are poor, they're starving. While there are real issues going on in Africa, like in Congo and Sudan, they don't necessarily need outside help as bad as the Western media portrays. Um, People aren't looking for handouts. Africans aren't trying to take your money, your creatives, your ideas. No one's trying to scam you or steal from you. They just want to work with you. And then the problem comes with online. Online, the people are coming from places of hate. They're getting online to get anger out through their day. They're not really thinking about what they're saying and how it's impacting people. But you getting online out of frustration and tweeting something like, oh, Nigerians are scammers is really harmful to a lot of people. And it opens up conversations, it opens up stereotypes that further harmful images of people that make our relationships harder. For example, if not that you feel that way, but it's been said so much that if a Nigerian podcaster reached out to you, what would first pop into your head? The second someone with the Nigerian flag reaches out to you, would first pops into your head?
I don't even know I'd have a thought, to be honest with you. I'd be like, okay, like, I mean, if anybody, I'm going to do my research.
Exactly.
Right.
You must have a positive intent. Yeah, our conversation goes well because you're a journalist, so it's a bit hard to get you at that question. But most people, when I ask them that, they're saying, well, I don't know. I'd have to make sure that I'm not going to get scammed. And exactly, the word, you said it. You didn't call them a scammer. You didn't say that you had proof, but the fact that you're worried about it for no other reason than where this person comes from is a problem. That's perpetuated by how we interact with each other.
For sure. So we've kind of tiptoed around it. Can you dive a little bit into, like, what is this diaspora war?
Diaspora war. Okay. It seems like, from what I can gather online, it's not just Black Americans, but Black people as a whole who are fighting with identity and communicating with each other. There are people from different parts of the world who have the same skin color as us, who will, for example, a lot of people assume I'm white, or I have a white mother. And when I try and communicate that's not the case, they will tell me, no, your skin is light. There's no way you look like that without having white in your blood. And just that taste, telling people what they are, trying to fight and represent someone else when you don't know anything about them is part of the diaspora war. When people don't know where they come from, and that causes confusion and internal anger, instead of looking in on themselves and researching their history or connecting with their family, they take that out on people who are openly enjoying their culture or trying to find things out about themselves or researching it. It's almost like if you try and connect to something that isn't widely accepted, or if you look like you're rejecting a part of you, that people attack you for it.
Yeah. Like growing up going to North Stafford and things of that nature, I didn't really like, have like a lot of experience with like first generation Africans, like, over here in the States. That really changed when I went up to school and went to the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. At that time, it was really like culture shock in like many ways for me. Some of my best friends are from that subset of the diaspora.
Okay.
And I think that there's like stigmas that come along with like, what people's like social class, where they are as far as like wealth and things of that nature. There's, folks that come over here who are just getting it out of the mud like the rest of us. And then there's some folks over here who, come over, they stunting, everything's good, they shining. And, I think it's interesting because I'm a very discerning person. So, I may feel like when someone, is meeting me for the first time and maybe they have like some preconceived notions or they've already determined what box they're going to put me in. And, you know, um, I'm sure there's like some African Americans who may feel some type of way about Africans. And then there's some Africans that may feel some type of way about African Americans. For me, my standpoint is, in the end, we're all the same. Like, especially when you put us on, this quote unquote neutral ground here in the United States. The struggles are by and large the same. I'm no better than someone who maybe first or second generation over here in America. I am no lesser. Now, is that up for debate, or will people are going to have their perceptions? But what are your thoughts on that? Is that one of the main things that is like a point of contention? With the diaspora war, there's folks who have like certain perceptions on the background and what we go through.
Yeah, there's let's see, let me try and think of what I like to talk personal. I don't like trying to assume for other people. So I personally have dealt with a lot of when I'm advocating for Ghana, when I'm speaking for being Ghanaian or of the diaspora. Sometimes I'm chastised, I'm bullied a little bit. I get told, "How do you know anything? You don't know where you come from. Your brother's American," and that hurts. That's really hard to deal with. It's a bit easier when you have a culture that you ingrain in and that you're raised in fully with both parents and you're accepted by everyone. It's way easier to identify. Like if I were to just call myself a Black American, I couldn't do that. I'd be a bit teased. I'd be bullied online. They could say you're trying to forget about your other heritage when I claim I'm West African and I'm proud of that. Online today, I'm facing, oh, you're better than me. Oh, you think that your culture is richer. You think that Americans don't have culture because you have one. And I come from
Right.
that. Everyone has culture. Culture isn't something that's just made up. It's not something that is always physically, I can grab, I can touch, I can smell. Culture is what makes people. It's how you live every day. It's what you choose to eat. It's down to what makes your dislikes and likes. So saying that someone has no culture just because you can't fit it into a box is where that accent is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
I agree with it.
Absolutely. And if someone asks me where I'm from, I'll say Virginia, and then they'll say, "But where are you really from?" And I'll be like, "North Carolina." But in the big scheme of things, like the culture, we are such a despised people. We're so despised in so many ways, but for you to think about like what has been overcome for us to get to the place we are in the past 400 years and how much society really like takes from our culture. Even for me, like when I am going through, I'm just watching like a football game and it goes to break, and they're playing like scenario by leaders of the new school, and I'm like, wow, man, we've come so far. Like, especially things like hip hop culture, and it's all over the place, and it's because we're magic. That magic's in our blood. That same magic is in the blood throughout the diaspora. What are your thoughts on the term people of color?
People of color. That term, I believe, used to like marginally fit black people, right? That was, but nowadays that includes anyone that's not white.
Right. Yeah, that's what it seems, especially, and I think people of color is used more so like in like election cycles.
Okay.
That's what I think of, as a political representation, and that's why I brought it up. But let me hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, yeah. When I hear people of color nowadays politically, it looks like it fits for anyone who's not white, but like they're putting anyone who was of color into a box. But I remember growing up, people of color was for black people, and they it meant you were black. I don't know exactly when it crossed. Not that it's a problem. It's nice that we can all blend together, but when you put everyone into a box, that leaves little room for people to feel represented, and that causes problems within individual communities, which is why the internet is in so many wars, and not just a diaspora war. I think people of color is probably a term that should be updated. It should be reworked some way. It's like I recently learned the term Sulan. Um,
Yes, yes, dude. How would you describe Suhan?
So I've heard that in a song. She said "Black American Princess Sulan." I said, "Okay, that's cool." I thought she was talking about a country. I won't lie. I didn't know anything about it. Doing some research online, I learned it's something like "Soul People of Soul," and it's for to describe specifically people who are descendants of slaves.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I got from it as well. Yeah.
which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Having their own, and I believe that's okay, now am I mixing? That's part of the diaspora. There's a section called forced migration.
Forced migration. Yep. Yep.
So I believe these two things are they coincide.
Yes. Yes. Forced migration would definitely deal with the slave trade. Yep.
Okay, so with all these identifiers, I'm a little confused. I won't lie.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, and which isn't a problem. Like we deserve to identify and be seen for who we are, but it's so bad with I'm sorry, use
Willie Lynch.
Willie Lynch. It's so bad the divide that we are still fighting each other as black men and women that we can't even open the room to even break ourselves down into these categories. That's why sometimes I feel it isn't taken as serious by the media. We aren't taken as serious when we come to people with the big brands, the big names, and we say we want representation, and they're like, "Well, you have it." No, we don't. We don't have it. But we have is a stove that was thrown at us, and there's already 3 aisles taken. That's what we have.
Wow, I like that. I like that. Yeah. When we were talking offline, one of the things that's heard you said, we're effectively divided. And I would love for us to, maybe just get on live and have, some more topics because we can really like dive into this like more in depth. But one of the things that I want us to talk about a little bit as well is, the concept of Afrofuturism.
Afrofuturism, yes, my
Wakanda forever, Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So Afrofuturism definitely exists. It's Africa today. It's Africa right now. It's the people who are graduating college. It's the people who are graduating the STEM programs, who are traveling. I personally know a few people who this month they've been in Nigeria, they've been in the Caribbean, they've been in Ghana,
Yep.
conferences talking about the beautiful things they're creating and networking with each other. There's this entire community of people who, like you said, they come over here a little bit flaunting, but they don't mean to. We're so divided that some of us genuinely live in other worlds and have no idea what's going in the next. There's people who are working on Afrofuturism and they're looking at it like they're about to open the door to tomorrow. But there's people who think that it's not till like 2060, 2030 because like we're divided. We aren't working together, we aren't networking, we aren't bridging to see that other people are doing the same exact things that we are. I know an animator right now who worked on I believe like Iron Man, Godzilla, and is American. He just moved to Ghana to open his own animation business because he's Ghanaian, but he's of the diaspora.
That's dope.
So he's facing some of the issues we spoke about, trying to integrate into the culture fully. It still isn't easy being of the diaspora because Africa doesn't work the way it does here, the way we're protected. We are privileged. We are blessed to have the things we do here. There's central health plans, there's central governments, there's business programs that'll fund you. And all of these things are accessible to us with a little bit of research, sometimes with help. But in places in Africa, I won't get too specific, but I'm from Ghana, so I can speak on Ghana. These things don't exist. There isn't I can't go to someone and say I have this business idea, fund me. It's not as easy. They do that. There are people who help. Like for example, they just opened mortgages to people who are Ghanaian descent. Certain banks are allowing mortgage plans. I just learned about this last week. Yeah. But they're only offering it to Ghanaians, descendants of Ghana. What I heard in the meeting. So could be a bit.
What do you mean? Because I mean, I'm technically a descendant of Ghana. I am technically, tracing the bloods.
Said whereas I'm speaking to her, she said, I believe it's of heritage, or if you can prove that you're, I guess they're trying to make sure that they're not selling their country to people who have no interest in living there and building in the economy, which is beneficial.
So I can show them like my ancestry and me. Well, okay.
It's the Dream Team International online. That's where I learned the information from.
Okay. Very good. And one of the things we also talked about was maybe some of the things that we consider like luxuries and amenities over here, over there, for the lack of a better word, they are not in place by choice. It's not, technology does, there are certain things about technology that are good, but it can also not be great. And, are there any examples that really come to mind that you share where, maybe by choice, some things aren't like, as prevalent?
That's prevalent by choice. So you're trying to get me in trouble, and I gotta be careful with this other line. Be careful. Say if I'm the government.
My bad. My bad.
Let's see.
Okay. Well, let's do this. I know, for instance, you were talking about like fufu.
Fufu, I love me some fufu.
Okay. And you're like, it doesn't hit the same unless you have fufu that's
freshly pounded. You should love me some freshly pounded fufu. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I dealt with a little bit of backlash in my American family. I told them I wanted to go to Ghana. I'm meant to be home. Beautiful that it's a rich culture, and me using the word rich triggered, I don't know what. I don't want to speak on other people's backgrounds, but she said, I don't think there's anything rich about a culture that has to cook on the ground. And I said, I had to stop the conversation. That was a little bit too personal for me. While I don't mind confrontation, I don't like conflict. So,
Right.
all that it takes to explain to someone that people are doing things out of their choice, that people are living that way because it's what makes them happy, is really hard when people are stuck in a way that they feel like luxury and happiness and peace needs to look like a Western world. When they can't envision anything other than that, they then see other cultures experiencing themselves and their wholesomeness and beauty as a negative thing instead of just, that's different.
Yeah. And you also mentioned, the divide in a village. How you as a child, excuse me, you as a child, you may be roaming the village, but, other parents will come up to you like, what are you doing? Like, better than that. Everyone kind of has that sort of ownership, whereas here in America, like, maybe back when I was a child, I would feel like a little bit more comfortable. I hop on my bike and I'm like three, four neighborhoods over. I'm trick or treating like five neighborhoods away and stuff like that. And there's so much issues with security, people being abducted. I feel like every week I'm sharing like another missing child and things of that nature. But it's a little bit different. When you talk about like those village settings.
Yeah, growing up, that's what really breaks my heart. Not living in America fully, but the experience for my daughter. When I grew up and going to Ghana, well, funny, I was 12 years old going and buying my dad cigarettes and beer. It's all about me. But like, not that I would ever drink it or anything, because sometimes they pop the top off for you. So I'm like, yeah, did they recycle? So they bring the bottles back. Um, then the elders were watching me. The village people were watching them. They'd be like, I see you. Don't you take a sip out of that, don't you? And I was just walking, but you're supposed to, head back home. But I would dilly dally. I'd chase the chickens. I saw the goats. I was like, no, it's beautiful. And I knew that eventually I'd have to come back to America. So I spent as much time as I could outside. Like I would chase the phone man for my grandmother. They
What is the phone man?
so so in Africa they have, okay, you know how you guys have minute plans here?
Yep.
So in let me stop saying Africa, general. In Ghana they have it's almost like just a perpetual no minute system. So
Okay.
there's people who walk around selling phone cards.
Gotcha. Okay. I got you.
We had a regular phone.
Okay.
You'd hear him outside the gate calling.
That's the plug. That's the plug. I got you.
So I'd go out and chase them and be like, my grandma needs minutes, cover the money, yeah.
Okay.
But it was, it was free. Like I could go out and do whatever I wanted. I could leave the gate because it was the gated. Now for protection in case of these, everyone has the concern. Along the walls or top was like shards of glass and nails and things, so no one could jump over. So I wasn't allowed to leave at night. Still, like everywhere else, same thing. Be careful, children. You don't know who's. Most people who were out alone at night don't have anything better to do. So there are still precautions. I wasn't allowed to go out too late. But I was clubbing at 12. I was going to nightclubs with my father. We were very, very welcoming, open area. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what can we do? You have been doing like a lot of research and trying to bridge that gap. Uh, what are some practical steps that we can make in our lives today to help bridge this gap and you know uh, help put a cease to this diaspora war?
ISP, Black America,
Yes.
African Americans, because I've heard them
Exactly.
as well.
Exactly. Yes.
We,
Yes.
Mom, I think we need to come together, first of all, in America. Like, oh my gosh, like you were talking about being from Stafford, Woodbridge. When I was trying to simply PR and with a small team from Ghana Network with the DMV, the amount of separation and drama I've heard from business leaders from DC, Woodbridge, and Richmond in the woman field is a little bit harsh. There's a lot of disconnect. There's a lot of miscommunication. There's a lot of people who want to be better than the next. There's a lot of things that exist purely because they were kicked out of another space, which oversaturates the market and confuses the public. So when think about this. You know how Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, for example,
Yep.
their fan bases extremely loyal, and they stick to their side, and that's what they do with these upcoming brands.
Blinded loyalty, even.
Yes, with these upcoming brands we have, the people, the public who don't have creative interest, who are fine in their sections of the world, which is we all need. Everyone needs to fit in there. We all have a place we belong in, and accepting that is important, but it's a whole other story. When we come together and all of these people are fighting to exist in the first place, it leaves little room for people to know who to be a fan of, who to follow. when there's, I'm trying not to call people out specific, so I'm pausing.
Understood.
Okay.
Take your time. Let them use you.
Yeah.
Let them use you.
When there's too many people baking cakes,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a cake factory in Woodbridge, there's a cake factory in DC, there's a cake factory in Richmond. There's 100 people who all like cake.
Yep.
The people are going to go to the cake that is the simplest. They are going to now go what they know. They're going to go with the vanilla cake with cream icing and a little bit of sprinkles. They're not going to go for the strawberries, pistachio, or the chocolate butternut if they don't know anything about it. They are going to go for the vanilla. This doesn't even race, just the simple, what everyone knows. Everyone knows a confetti birthday cake. That's the go-to birthday cake. People are going to flock to that because that's what they know, and they know they're going to have a good time. They know that they're going to get something out of it. It's really hard to just leap into things you don't know anything about. So when Black Americans try to do things and they're trying to host things and they're fighting amongst each other and we can't come together because I'm part of Black America, so my mom's Black American. Mm-hmm. We can't come together and get together because we want to be better than the next woman, or we want to be stronger than the next, or do more than the next. We confuse people, and there isn't room for outside forces to want to network with us. When have you ever seen a pot of crabs before you turn them on? Have you ever wanted to stick your hand in there?
Not at all.
Exactly. That's what it looks like to outside forces. No one wants to stick their hand in there and get bit, even though there could be a juicy crab you pull out. No one wants to do that.
I think one of the things that would probably be practical, and we just have to be more intentional with where we spend our time and our money. I know one of the things that you're doing is, highlighting businesses for us, by us. I think that's a great step. You alluded to Ghana Week before. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Okay, so Ghana Week is a week of celebration that I've been planning for the past few months. I'm going to launch it next year with I don't know if I call him my boss, but I'm working with him, Orla Fori of the African Dream. He has some connects in DC, so we're looking at possibly the African History Museum. Yeah, having it there, bringing in some artists from Ghana, and it's just going to be a giant. There's so many Africans in the DMV in general. Actually, in Maryland, like I said, but the amount of Ghanaians in Virginia and even in Fredericksburg alone, everywhere you look, there are 9 times out of 10 Ghanaian in our area. There's a lot of people from Sierra Leone here as well.
Yep.
That's funny because I get us confused. Yep. We working together. We want to communicate. We want to blend. We want to highlight these people, and we want to bring people who are here with businesses. We don't want to just bring people over. We don't want to just say Ghana is great, you should come interact with us. We want to effectively build a standpoint for us here so we can integrate into Black American culture, so we can work together and not against each other.
Yeah.
Beautiful on it.
Be more accessible, be more inclusive. Like, let's become like a little bit more curious and a little bit less ignorant about what's going on, because just like there's stigmas here on what we go through, the struggles here, there's also stigmas, what's going on back in the motherland.
Like, I got tripped up this cell phone morning, shame on me. I was arguing with my African American partner. Not arguing, but we were talking about weddings. And he said he didn't want an African wedding. He didn't think that he would be allowed to wear his triple.
Listen, don't get me in trouble. Don't get me in trouble mentioning this on the pod. Okay, go ahead.
And I didn't think when I was reacting, I was upset. And so I didn't want to wear a stupid, ugly white dress because I was only thinking about white America. What I didn't realize I was doing was inadvertently calling him no cultured, because I associated the only thing that most Black Americans do in marriage with the white people. And it upset me. I said, I don't want to wear a boring white dress, but that's insulting someone's whole identity and culture. And I didn't realize I was doing that because I associated that with another culture, and that was essentially erasing his. So
I mean, can you all agree on jumping the broom? Okay, all right. That's a start. Baby steps. Baby steps.
but it's things like that where we don't think like we're so divided, and it's in everything we do that we really have to be careful in what we say, because like I said, that simple comment erased a whole genre. It erased how people genuinely do celebrate their marriages and care, while a white dress isn't specific to African Americans. That's how many African Americans do get dressed. That's what they look forward to, and it was wrong of me to, out of anger, describe it that way.
I feel you. I think the key takeaway from all of this is that we have so much work to do, and let's be intentional on what we say. Being curious and making sure that we're having a level of sensitivity. We're all going through. We all have our own struggles on even the mental level. So. I appreciate what you do. I consider it a crusade of sorts.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about what my friend Nana NYC is doing. I just met him online a few days ago, and he connected with me really cool. He's been behind a lot of shows, like he got Sarkari here. He worked with Shadow Wale. He's worked with maybe the artist behind the African Queen. Yes, he did. He was the first show he had in America. So he's like a producer. What's the English word? What do you a hype man?
Hype man. Promotion. Promotion. Yeah, promoter.
He's a promoter, and he's been promoting people and getting Ghanaian specific because he's from Ghana here. But he invited me to a party he's having in New York City. It's Afro beats all black high events. It looks cool. They hosted.
Sounds like a vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, I may go because I was personally invited, which is really cool. That's been happening a lot lately, so I don't know what's going on with maybe my dancing on the internet is getting people.
Maybe.
But yeah.
We could probably just look at it as God's increasing your territory. He's giving you these opportunities. So. Count yourself blessed for it.
Thank you.
I know you'll make the most of it. Yeah, I'd be interested maybe if you do like a blog, if you decide to go to see a journey, then that would be cool to follow. Speaking of which, tell the folks how they can follow you and what you have going on your socials.
Okay, what's really easy and probably better is to connect with me on Instagram at Natoshi. It's NATORSIEHIE on Instagram, and then without the E on TikTok. I have all of my social links in my bio, my blog, who I work with, the artists I've connected with. So everything on Instagram is pretty much like my website. So you can find most about me on there.
Okay. Very good. And when I have this guest on, when he makes it, DJ KO, she's the one that put me on with him as well. So look forward to some more great guests coming here on the podcast. Thank you so much for y'all's time, and y'all be blessed.